FBI arrested 18 people today as part of an operation that also swept up drugs and 5 AR-15 style ghost guns.
The 269 pounds of fentanyl pills and powders seized in this case could have yielded a staggering 6.9 million lethal doses.
4:31 a.m. The city wasn't asleep, it was holding its breath. An ocean of warehouses stretched across the industrial outskirts, steel boxes sitting under dim orange lights. The air carried a cold mist drifting in from the freeway. Trucks sat parked in perfect rows like soldiers waiting for orders that never came. Then the radios cracked alive. A convoy rolled forward without sirens. Black SUVs, armored trucks, tactical vans. No flashing lights, no announcements, just movement. Federal agents stepped out simultaneously, dozens of silhouettes spreading across the pavement with mechanical precision. Their boots made almost no sound, yet the tension felt loud enough to shake the walls. They surrounded a compound that looked ordinary at first glance. A shipping yard office, storage units, security cameras mounted everywhere. But the cameras weren't facing outward, they were watching the neighborhood. The place wasn't meant to keep thieves out, it was meant to keep secrets in. A breaching ram hit the steel gate. The impact echoed through the empty district like thunder rolling through a canyon. Floodlights snapped on inside the compound, but it was too late. Agents were already pouring through entrances, smashing reinforced doors and sweeping each structure in coordinated waves. Inside the main building, they expected narcotics. Instead, they found an office. Clean, organized, quiet. Rows of desks, accounting folders, filing cabinets labeled with trucking company names, shipping schedules printed weeks in advance. Every document looked legitimate, but the deeper they searched, the stranger it became. The paperwork wasn't fake, it was real, just not for the business it claimed. Behind a locked interior vault door sat floor-to-ceiling shelves of sealed containers, each labeled as industrial cleaning solution shipments. One container was opened. The room froze. Inside were thousands of identical blister packs, counterfeit pharmaceutical pills stamped to match real prescriptions perfectly. A forensic tech whispered, "These aren't street drugs, this is manufacturing." Then came the second discovery. Below the office floor, hidden under removable tiles, agents uncovered a digital control room, server racks humming, live GPS maps tracking trucks moving across multiple states in real time, routes updated automatically, inspection checkpoints avoided before they happened. Someone wasn't reacting to law enforcement, they were predicting it. By sunrise, the agents understood. This was not a distribution point, it was a command center, and it was only one node in a network they hadn't even begun to see. As the lead investigator looked at the moving map, dozens of blinking vehicles crossing highways simultaneously, he muttered a sentence later repeated in every briefing room across the country. This isn't smuggling, this is infrastructure. And somewhere far away, a phone lit up on a bedside table. The man watching the alerts didn't panic. He smiled, because the raid had started exactly where he wanted it to.
The alert reached him at 4:46 a.m. Not a phone call, not a message, a soft vibration from a secure tablet resting on a glass nightstand. He opened his eyes slowly, not surprised, not rushed. The room around him was silent, high above the city skyline, where the morning fog hadn't yet climbed. From this height, the highways looked like glowing veins carrying streams of light across the darkness. On the tablet, a map pulsed red. One node had gone offline. He studied it for several seconds, then calmly took a sip of water. No panic, because the location wasn't important. It was meant to be found. His name in official records was Nabil Karim, logistics consultant, infrastructure advisor, and transportation efficiency expert. A man whose resume included urban supply chain optimization for major private contractors and municipal partnerships. To the outside world, he solved traffic problems. To a very different world, he solved movement, and movement was power. Years earlier, Nabil had noticed something no one else considered valuable. Modern law enforcement didn't just chase criminals, it followed patterns. Every checkpoint, inspection lane, highway patrol schedule and port clearance system operated on predictable cycles. Governments built systems for efficiency. He built systems around those systems. The trucks his network used were real companies. The shipments were real deliveries. The paperwork was authentic. Only the cargo changed. Produce shipments carried sealed compartments. Medical supply crates hid layered packaging. Construction material pallets contained vacuum-sealed bricks indistinguishable on scanners calibrated for safety, not deception. He never moved drugs. He moved logistics, and logistics moved everything else. The map on his screen updated again. 3 vehicles rerouted automatically, bypassing a now active inspection corridor 200 miles away. The system adjusted itself faster than any human dispatcher could react. Artificial intelligence predicted enforcement patterns using public data, traffic cameras, weather reports, and staffing rotations. No bribes required, no violence necessary. For 5 years, authorities had been intercepting low-level couriers while the real pipeline expanded underneath them, like underground wiring inside a wall. Nabil stood and walked toward the window. Sunrise was beginning to bleed into the horizon. He knew raids created attention, and attention created opportunity. Whenever agencies focused on seizures, they diverted resources from observation. Tonight's raid would dominate reports for weeks, which meant the real expansion could begin. He tapped the screen again, opening a second encrypted layer labeled Corridor Phase 2. New routes, new states, new partnerships. The system wasn't collapsing, it was evolving. Across the country, trucks continued moving, untouched, unflagged, invisible. Because the network didn't rely on secrecy, it relied on normalcy, and normal things never look suspicious. As city traffic began waking below him, Nabil finally powered off the tablet. Investigators believed they had struck the heart of an operation, but they had only uncovered a doorway. Because the man they were searching for didn't run a cartel, he ran a supply chain. And supply chains don't disappear when you shut down a warehouse. They reroute.
The investigators didn't find her in the warehouse. They found her in photographs, award ceremonies, charity galas, city development meetings, always smiling, always near decision makers. Her name was Elena Voss, public policy advisor, nonprofit director, and one of the most trusted urban development consultants in the region. If a neighborhood needed funding, she knew how to get it. If a project required permits, she knew who to call. She wasn't powerful because of money. She was powerful because of access. At first, analysts assumed she was just another public figure unknowingly connected to companies under investigation. But as digital forensics teams reconstructed the seized servers, a pattern began to appear. Every truck route had a timing window. Every timing window matched a city maintenance schedule. Road closures, utility inspections, way station downtimes, port congestion redirections. They weren't random. They were planned months in advance and approved through legitimate municipal channels. That's when agents realized the network didn't avoid the system, it used the system. Elena never altered laws, she never forged documents, she simply arranged projects at very specific times. A road resurfacing delayed patrol routes by 3 hours, enough for a convoy to pass unnoticed. A safety inspection closed a checkpoint lane, scanners offline during a critical shipment window. A grant-funded construction project created temporary traffic diversions, perfect corridors for uninterrupted transport. Each individual decision looked harmless. Together, they formed a moving tunnel across the state. Financial records revealed something even stranger. Her nonprofit organizations weren't stealing funds. Every dollar was accounted for. Shelters were built, community programs operated, food drives happened exactly as reported. But contractors hired for those projects also operated trucking fleets, and those fleets were connected to Nabil's routing system. She wasn't hiding criminal activity, she was embedding it inside legitimate activity. During an internal briefing, one analyst summarized it in a single sentence. Remove the illegal cargo and everything still works. That was the brilliance of it. Nothing needed to be fake because reality itself became the cover. Elena attended council meetings advocating infrastructure improvement while unknowingly creating synchronized corridors for movement. Officials trusted her because her projects helped communities. She built a reputation so clean that no audit ever questioned the patterns beneath. Late that evening, agents finally located her, not fleeing, not hiding. She was hosting a housing initiative fundraiser. When approached, she didn't resist. She didn't even seem surprised. Her only question was quiet. Which location did you hit first? The agents didn't answer, but her expression told them she already knew. Because the warehouse wasn't the operation, it was one of many pressure valves. And the moment authorities focused there, traffic across dozens of other routes had already shifted. In the command center, screens began lighting up again. Not red this time, green. The system had adapted, and investigators realized they weren't dismantling a network. They were stepping into a machine designed to continue running, even while being shut down.
6 a.m. Sunrise hadn't fully reached the city when the operation began everywhere at once. Not one raid, not 10, dozens. Inside a federal coordination room, an entire wall displayed a live digital grid of the country. Blue markers identified teams, red markers identified targets, yellow markers were vehicles still in motion. For months, investigators believed they were chasing a network. Now they understood they were hunting a schedule, and schedules could only be stopped simultaneously. The command was given. Every marker moved. In an industrial district hundreds of miles away, a warehouse opened its loading bay expecting a routine delivery. Instead, armored vehicles blocked both exits within seconds. Agents rushed inside before phones could be touched. Across the state, a suburban home with no criminal record history was breached. Inside were not drugs, but routing servers identical to those discovered earlier, backup nodes operating independently, each capable of controlling transport corridors if another went offline. The system wasn't centralized, it was cellular. Shut one down, another took over. On a rural highway, patrol units halted a convoy of refrigerated trucks carrying produce. Drivers presented authentic documentation. Everything scanned clean. Then a forensic officer drilled into the trailer wall. A hidden insulated compartment slid open. Perfectly temperature-regulated packaging. Not designed to hide cargo, designed to preserve it. At a coastal shipping yard, cranes stopped mid-operation as agents froze container movement. Manifest lists matched shipments exactly, but weight distributions didn't. Inside were layered pallets engineered to appear uniform under inspection imaging. Meanwhile, financial investigators executed warrants at corporate offices. Accountants stared in disbelief as servers were seized, their companies legitimate in every function except one automated logistics module, quietly embedded in their systems. The realization spread among agents almost simultaneously. No one organization knew the full operation. Each participant believed they were performing normal work. Drivers drove legal routes. Companies filed real taxes. Managers scheduled routine deliveries. The intelligence existed only in the algorithm coordinating them. Back in the command center, the map began changing. Yellow markers, moving trucks, started disappearing one by one. Not because they escaped, because they were stopped at the same moment. 6:42 a.m., 12 routes halted. 7:15 a.m., 27 facilities secured. 8:03 a.m., financial network frozen. 9:28 a.m., communications offline. For the first time, the movement stopped. Not slowed, stopped. An investigator leaned back, exhausted, watching the last blinking marker fade from the screen. 6 hours. It had taken 5 years to build the corridor, and 6 hours to collapse it. But as silence filled the room, no one celebrated, because on the final recovered server, a message appeared automatically once all nodes disconnected. Rerouting unavailable. Below it, a timestamp scheduled for midnight. The machine hadn't just been transporting goods, it had been preparing for something else, something that required every route at once. And now investigators had less than 1 day to understand what they had prevented, or what was about to happen next.
11:58 p.m. The evidence lab was nearly empty. Most agents had been awake for over 30 hours, running on caffeine and urgency. Monitors filled the room. Financial charts, shipment histories, communication fragments of code still being reconstructed. But one computer remained isolated from the others, air-gapped. No internet, no external access, only the recovered algorithm. At midnight, the program activated on its own. No outside signal triggered it. It had been waiting for time, not instruction. The screen displayed a single phrase, Final Protocol Initializing. Lines of routing data appeared, thousands of coordinates across multiple states. Every route investigators had shut down earlier began to reappear, not active, but simulated. The system was calculating. Analysts leaned closer. The routes weren't about delivery anymore. They formed patterns. When mapped together, the truck paths created overlapping movement zones around major metropolitan supply hubs, fuel depots, food distribution centers, medical storage facilities, and shipping exchanges. It wasn't a trafficking map, it was a dependency map. The network had been quietly measuring something for years, how goods moved through cities and what happened when they didn't. Nabil hadn't built a cartel infrastructure. He had built a mirror of the national supply chain. The drugs were funding. The real product was knowledge.
The program simulated a coordinated stoppage. If specific corridors halted simultaneously, entire urban areas would lose critical deliveries within 72 hours. Fuel shortages, medical delays, food supply gaps. Not destruction, pressure. The ability to create chaos without violence. A country doesn't collapse when attacked, it collapses when it can't function. Investigators finally understood the midnight timer. The system was designed to activate once the network was seized, revealing leverage to whoever controlled it last: insurance. If authorities dismantled the corridor without understanding it, they would never see how fragile their infrastructure truly was. Elena had opened doors. Nabil had mapped what was behind them. Together, they hadn't planned an attack. They had built the capability of one, quietly, completely. A senior analyst stared at the projection and spoke softly. They weren't smuggling drugs, they were mapping dependence. Outside, the city lights flickered as midnight passed. Nothing exploded, no disaster began, because the system was no longer in their hands. The threat wasn't in action, it was the realization. The investigators shut down the machine and archived its data under the highest security classification. Public reports would mention arrests, seizures, and charges. They would never mention the model. Some knowledge is more dangerous than weapons. In the end, the operation didn't just dismantle a criminal empire, it exposed a vulnerability, one that existed long before the criminals discovered it, and would exist long after they were gone. The corridor was closed, but the question remained: if one network could learn how a nation moves, who else might already be watching?